biggest resource we have on our property are all of the rocks that we have. And it's actually with that problem that we've turned it into a solution with rainwater harvesting. But it's with the Zuni bowl, utilized by the ancient Zuni people. We can take example of the different rainwater harvesting practices and techniques that they indulged in to fight against the dry, hot, deserty climate that we're in. And the best part is the Zuni bowl is simple, easy, and if you got the rocks, free material. What's going on, everyone? I'm Brandon, and this is the Greening the Desert Project. Now, the Zuni bowl is actually one of my favorite earthworks because it has so many different functions, but also in its function, it has an aesthetic appeal that makes it blend in with the natural surroundings. So this is partly my favorite just because of the aesthetic appeal, but also because this has multifunctional design features to it in general. And it's when we're looking at rainwater harvesting, that's where we can see that the Zuni bowl is similar in function to the demi-lunes, the swales, the basins, on contour lines, all these things. But they are stopping, slowing, and sinking more of the rainwater in that aspect because of this depression. But then also because of the rock features, we're also capturing organic material, sediment, fine dust particles and such like that. And it's especially for our hot and dry region that the rocks actually create a really nice rock mulch, which is also a part of the Zuni people's practices. So the rock mulching is super beneficial because this is a solid, dense mass, so it's able to absorb a lot of that heat from the sun, but also cover and mulch the soil, keeping it nice and cool and retaining a lot more moisture underneath. And that's where we can find the example on our landscape. We can see all the abundance of vegetation, grasses, trees, shrubs that are growing around the rocks and near a lot of these rock outcroppings. So we can find that the rocks are very effective at protecting and retaining a lot of the moisture in the soil to help vegetation grow. And so that's essentially the point with the Zuni bowl as well, is that we're capturing the water, sinking the water in a concentrated area, and then with the rock mulch, we'll promote more of the grasses growing and any other seeds and vegetation starting to grow up through the rocks. And then we'll also be able to come through and plant cover crops. And then in certain spots, we actually can utilize these Zuni bowls for planting trees or certain fruits and vegetables or different shrubs and such. So that's kind of the cool part, is that not only are they multifunctional, it's what makes them so simple that we can place these almost anywhere on our landscape. And it really depends on the usage, especially if we're just planting stuff or we have ideas to plant trees in these bowls, then these are diverse in the areas that they can be placed. But it's when it comes to the rainwater harvesting practices and techniques that we're doing on our landscape, I've already started the first Zuni bowl in our southern portion area over by the terrace and the Zuni waffle garden. So we're actually continuing down the line because last year during monsoon, we were able to see the inflow of water that came through this area, came up and over the rocks, filled this area with water, and actually continued traveling down the way. So we're actually going to continue with creating more Zuni bowls, and we've got kind of a Zuni rock trench that we actually have also created. So this is similar with the Zuni bowl, but this is what makes it a little bit universal in the design features, because we don't need to necessarily make it a bowl shape. We can make these more in a trench shape or oval, star, octagon. We can make them all kinds of different shapes, so that's the cool part. So the trench in between will serve just the same, capturing, soaking more water, and then having rock mulch. And now we have this depression that, because of the surface area, we will be capturing and holding that much more water in this area in general. So we're actually going to continue with more Zuni bowls down the way because we know the path of the water and the direction that we kind of want to lead it to. And this section I think is just going to be cool because we're going to do kind of a multi-step, multi-tiered Zuni bowl design. So let me explain a little bit how I've designed everything in this area. You'll really find out for yourself on your own landscape, but for us, we can only dig so far down in a lot of these different spots, and you'll find that in all these Zuni bowls that I dug out, I actually ended up hitting a layer or a hard pan of caliche. So it's nice that we're able to dig down just for observation's sake, to be able to see what we've got going on down there, and to get a little bit deeper understanding of why there is a bit more sheet flow that goes on in this area. That's how we can find that just maybe a foot down below this soil surface, we're hitting a hard pan of caliche. So there's really not enough soil to absorb the amount of water that comes in this way. So we've gotten our Zuni bowls as far down as we can, and just the added bonus of digging the pit, now we've broken up a lot of that caliche layer as well. So all this caliche we're breaking up, disturbing the soil slightly to make it a little bit more fluffy and absorbent. And then in turn, with digging the bowls, we've also uncovered a lot of extra rocks that we've been able to use for the bowls themselves. So the multi-tool aspect really comes in with digging these bowls because we're doing a lot of different things. Just like the swales and any other earthworks, we're disturbing the soil, we're breaking up hard pan. And it's just since we're digging out the bowls as well, we're gonna have all this extra material. So what I've done with the extra material is created these keyline swales. So they're swales that are on slight contour, raised up on one end. So these swales that are built up are actually directing the water more towards the bowl. So that's where incorporating keyline design comes in. So we'll have to talk about keyline design in another video. So in using that material to build up more swales to direct the water where we want it to go, now we've actually encased a lot more of this area to hold a lot more of the water. And with having the Zuni bowls, now we've got slightly deeper depressions, so we can hold a little bit more water in this area in general. So that's one of the good things about building these Zuni bowls, is that we are not only building the bowls, but we're also getting extra material to be able to build more earthworks to help divert or capture and harvest more of the water. But then it's also that we're really choosing our spots carefully where we are building the Zuni bowls, because in this area in general, we actually have the abundance of rocks within the vicinity, so we're not having to go really that far out. It's only a stone throws away to get all the rocks that we need for these projects here. And that's why you'll find we don't do Zuni bowls in all of the locations that we have, but I'm going to be a little bit strategic about where they get placed. But it's also the case just looking at our surroundings in general. This is where the aesthetic appeal really comes in, because all of the rock outcroppings and everything that's around us currently, all these Zuni bowls and the swales actually just blend in. So it's something I didn't actually mention beforehand, but in creating these bowls, they not only are harvesting rainwater and slowing and stopping it, but we're also creating microclimates for future vegetation to grow. But then we're also providing a home for all of the nature to take over. So not just the vegetation growing, but we'll find that we start gathering more ants, more kinds of insects that want to hang out under the rocks, and also the diverse species of lizards that we have on the landscape, which in my opinion at least, we're further promoting more of the regeneration of the ecosystem and creating these little ecosystem bowls, so to speak, and just these structures around the landscape. I think we'll find that we'll start drawing in that much more nature that'll contribute to helping more of the vegetation, regeneration of the vegetation, that will contribute more of the vegetation growing and propagating and just supporting the overall balance of the whole ecosystem here. So that's where function also can meet up with design when we're constructing or designing our own permaculture landscape or homestead. I think it's a really important note that not only are we constructing these earthworks for functioning, but also everything is being designed with an artistic appeal in mind as well. So that's where this natural aesthetic, we can utilize all of the rocks on our property to create earthworks that not only serve a function, but also just look really good and add a little bit of sentimental value actually to the landscape. I got my umbrella hat, got my poncho. We got a lot to see. It's super exciting.